So we're going to jump back into Jarnail Singh's testimony to the post office inquiry here. And he's become so suspicious of Jason Beer that he doesn't even really want to agree on what a calendar date is. And Jason Beer is somewhat perplexed that actually there's a potential dispute with Jarnail Singh saying, I don't know, when he's just merely trying to say that Monday the 8th of February being a Monday would mean the Friday before was Friday the 5th of February when the email was sent. Has the suspicion gone too far? Let's find out and jump into the inquiry.
Can we move on, please? Fujitsu 0012-2731. This is still later in the day, on the 5th, 4:28 p.m. You to Fujitsu again, Jones, Thomas and Jenkins. Dear David, please also get Gareth Jenkins to comment on the enclosed report. That's the third McClackham report with a deadline of Monday the 8th of February. So I think you're sending this at 4:30 on a Friday, by the look of it.
That's a quick turnaround, isn't it? 4:30 on the Friday. By the way, we need this turned around by Monday at 4 p.m. Doesn't give a lot of time, but I guess they've only just received it at that stage. Although it is dated the 3rd of the 2nd, so it does seem like it's been go by the wayside for a day or two.
I had no idea to what day it was.
Well, if Monday was the 8th,
Well, probably.
the 5th would have been the Friday, wouldn't it? Yes?
I don't know. I mean, if you
Let's work out.
But no, you don't have to work it out. If you say so, it must be a Friday.
I don't want to get to the stage in asking you questions of how a calendar works, Mr. Singh.
No, if
you oughtn't to be so suspicious of me that if I tell you that Friday was the 5th.
I'm not suspicious. I'm just saying, years on, I can't...
Well, let's do the count. Okay, if Friday's the 5th, as Jason Beer says, Saturday will be the 6th, Sunday will be the 7th, and Monday will be the 8th. So indeed, Jason Beer is 100% correct that it is indeed Friday the 5th of February when the email's sent at 4:30, thereabouts.
I'll tell you the reason why, but certainly I'm trying to get the...
Do you agree that Friday was the 5th?
Yes, I agree.
Excellent.
Fine.
Because Saturday would have been the 6th, wouldn't it?
Must be.
Yeah, and Sunday would have been the 7th?
Yes, agreed.
Good.
Assuming Monday was the...
So you were sending a request at 4 on a Friday to Mr. Jenkins saying there's a court deadline for you to respond to this by 4 p.m. on the Monday, weren't you?
Well, that's what the court deadline. I'm stating a fact. I'm not I can only deal with what I have, and I certainly my habit is that whatever matters in front of you, you deal with as much as you can. I mean, instead of going backwards and forwards. I mean, it's a Friday, but whatever it is, and I'm just highlighting this what we need to do. But whether he's able to do it or not is another thing, and then presumably would have to go back to the court and say, look, we couldn't do it, we've done all we can, please help.
Again, this doesn't incorporate even the most basic elements of an expert instruction, does it?
I don't know what more do you want me to say.
Well, I guess the thing with this is, if your position is we weren't instructing him as an expert, even though the court treated them as an expert, then you need to stand by that and say, no, there was no expert instruction because we weren't doing. Whereas he seems to be kind of flip-flopping between saying, well, actually, I didn't instruct him as an expert. Fair enough, he was classed as an expert, but at the time, I thoroughly believed that what I was doing was not treating him as an expert. Therefore, of course, I didn't instruct him as an expert. But he seems to be kind of trailing both. I'm not going to say he's an expert, but I don't really want to admit that we didn't treat him like an expert.
Obviously, it doesn't.
An answer to the question?
No, it doesn't.
Thank you. Can we move on, please, to FUJ 0012-2735? And if we look at 5 on the Friday, Mr. Jones says, please see attached, and that's Mr. Jenkins' comment on the third interim technical report, and Gareth's comments on the need for an examination of the underlying log files and timing on this. And if we scroll down and see what Mr. Jenkins said, he says, David, I've provided inline comments to the documents as revisions. I'm happy for this to be passed to Post Office Limited if you feel it's appropriate. The simple answer is that without retrieving the logs, everyone is speculating. And as discussed, this morning, nobody's bothered to ask us for any logs. At this stage, it's not at all clear what transactions are thought to be missing at what time or even in what time period. Analysing logs over a long period, and I think this is over 2 or 3 months, is very, very time consuming. This is not going to happen by Monday. And he asked for a copy of Mr. Dunk's witness statement. And so Mr. Jenkins is pointing out to Fujitsu and in turn you that in order to respond to Professor McLachen's interim report, the Post Office needed to obtain the underlying data. Yes?
Sorry, yes.
Do you know why the underlying data had not been obtained?
Well, certainly it's been requested. As I said, there is a process and a procedure within the contractual commercial relationship between the Post Office. I think some of the emails I think we looked at yesterday, that's been dealt with in the background, which I'm not copied into. And I think Mr. Jones, in turn, is dealing with somebody else within the Post Office with regards to that.
Has it been requested though, and by whom and when? Because I think this links back to his previous comments that he said, well, I've asked for it, but then I'm sure previously he almost implied that actually that request wasn't carried through because of potentially contractual reasons that he's not aware of. So Fujitsu at this stage is certainly saying, why hasn't that been done? That hasn't been done. And presumably they will be aware if such a request had been made.
And
So
then,
this is 3 minutes to 5 on a Friday with a court deadline of 4 o'clock on a Monday. With the Fujitsu employee saying, I can't answer these questions without sight of the underlying transaction data.
yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Let's go back in history, please. Poll 305 2202. If we scroll down, please. Thank you. Email from Mr. Longman to you of 6 months earlier. At the hearing on the 14th of July, the defence indicated they'll be seeking the services of a forensic accountant to analyse the Horizon data, as Miss Misra is now challenging the accuracy of Horizon. I have tried to obtain the data for the time Miss Misra was sub-postmaster, 3 years, but as you can see from the email from Dave Posnett, there are a number of issues. Can you advise counsel of these issues and inform me as to what action to take? We can look at the Dave Posnett email if you want, but... So this is 6 months earlier, Mr. Longman raising with you, obtaining access to the underlying Horizon data.
Yes.
Why hadn't it been sorted out in the 6 months that elapsed?
Well, it's gone off my desk and landed on somebody else who can deal with it. It's not a lack of trying, it's the contractual commercial relationship and also the authorization and also as to obtaining of it. I mean, it's not something, this is the... This is something within my remit. If like I said to you yesterday, if it was up to me, then certainly I'm not concerned with the cost of it, because I'm as a prosecutor under a duty and obligation to provide it. And the simple answer would have been to say, look, you can't provide it, offer no evidence. I mean, that's probably where it would come to. And I think, as you could see David Posnett's concern, he's in a position whereby he's concerned with one aspect. You've got somebody else, the lawyers in the commercial and contract team, dealing with something else, and you've got somebody else who's in a position or role of requesting it. So I'm not sure. What are you asking me?
I'm asking you why you sent a request on 4 on a Friday to Mr. Jenkins, essentially, asking him to opine on Professor McLachen's third expert report. And he says, I need the underlying data.
Yeah.
And it was known for 6 months that the underlying data was something that was necessary to obtain. I'm asking what had happened in the 6 months.
It
had been passed around people's desks. Is that the answer?
No, the answer is going through the Post Office. I can honestly say that it works very slowly, but it's not like a commercial organisation where I've been concerned with in private practice, it's completely different way of dealing with it. I mean, certainly here, there's a processes, there's systems, there's contracts, there's commercial relationships. As a prosecutor, as a lawyer, you're basically in other people's hands.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to conclude anything other than the fact that actually what happened here was essentially they knew 6 months before this needed happening. He's saying, well, I requested it, so I washed my hands of it. But the fact that wasn't followed up then for 6 months, and all of a sudden it's like, we've got a court deadline on Monday, the Friday before, we need to sort this out now. I appreciate what he's saying that he's not got the final sign off, but surely if it's something that you need, you keep on pushing. And like he said, then the option available to them was to offer no evidence. Well, clearly they didn't offer no evidence because she ended up getting taken to court and get found guilty. So it seems in the end that they did present evidence, just incomplete evidence, which they were well aware of on both the post office and the Fujitsu side.